Hey everybody, it's your pal Trandell here. Welcome back to another Once Human video guide. So, I hope you are all having a beautiful, wonderful weekend. I know I am. And we're finally getting around to it. Here's the much asked for and anticipated, base building guide. Now, I am not going to go super in depth and walk you through every single step of the process. The in-game journey logs does that pretty well on its own. Instead, we're going to talk about some tips and tricks that I have learned during my time playing Once Human to help make that base building process a lot more smoother and enjoyable for you all. Now, let's get to it. I will touch on a couple basic items real fast. Basically, how to just get started for any of our super new players. It's really simple. You press O to get to your character screen here. From here, you're going to go to Memetics. And pretty much almost all of your base building stuff is going to be found through here, the territory construction. Again, follow your journey log for any of our new players. The journey log will explain how to get started. As you defeat the bosses and stuff like that, you will be able to unlock more and more options in your base building. But yeah, for the actual construction of the base, everything's going to be down here under territory construction. So now that we got that out of the way, the first tip I want to talk about, and I've mentioned this in other videos too, it's all about base location. Take your time to explore the map. See what's available. Take a look at what resources you use on a regular basis. If there's something like seawater that you use all the time, then yeah, you might want to find a base location by seawater. As you can tell, I use seawater for all kinds of stuff, especially since I am a little bit higher into the game content. Seawater is very important because from that you can make salt, which is used in all kinds of cooking recipes. So for my base location, I want it to be on the coast. That way I could have access to seawater. There's also all kinds of plants and a couple different ore items around here. So make sure your base is located in an area that does have a lot of the resources that you use all the time at hand. Of course, it's dark now, but as you can kind of see, there's tons of plants. I have iron around me, since again I am a little bit higher level. If for our lower players, things like copper and tin would be more important. So make sure you have those resources around you. I have tons of trees around me too, so I have access to wood. The other thing I would suggest too is try to find an area where there's a lot of animal wildlife. That way you have access to things like hides and meat too. I've mentioned this in my previous videos, but if you're a new player that just started the game, this location right here is absolutely wonderful. This location right here is also a great place to set up a base too. Down here you have all the resources you can need as a new player. There's trees, there's sulfur, there's copper. In this particular area right here, there's tons of deer and rabbits that you can hunt for meat and hide. Same thing down here, except for down here, you also have easy access to seawater and the beets that we talked about in one of my previous videos too. And there's all kinds of ore and animals and stuff to hunt as well. So take your time, explore the map, find some place that has the resources that you are using all the time. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is basic construction. Now, this is a very important tip. when you are building your base, you might want to get super crazy with it and get all elaborate and do some crazy design. I would be very cautious about just how crazy you get, especially when it comes to using the local environment to support your base. And this is what I mean. Do not use mountains and hillsides to support upper levels of your base. Take this as a perfect example. You see how I have this overhang, right? Well, 1 or 2 squares, the game's going to let you get away with that. Any further, and it's going to need you to support that base somehow with something. Whether it's, walls or columns underneath it, or with the environment. Let's say you're right next to a mountain and you're using part of the mountain to support your higher levels. That's fun and it can look absolutely amazing, but it can also cause some huge headaches later on in the game if you ever want to move your base, because here's why. Let's say you're leveling up, you're getting into the higher zones, and you need to move your base so you can start being closer to more of those high level resource items, right? Like things like iron and stuff like that. Well, you find yourself a nice little spot, let's say like this right here, and you're like, oh, this is a great spot. Let me move my base. You go to move your base, and all of a sudden you're getting a bunch of errors. One of them will say, can't move base because, items are hovering. Basically what the game is telling you is that since you no longer have that mountain or hillside to support the upper levels of your base, it's not going to let you move it. I actually learned that lesson the hard way when I went to try to move our hive base from its current location somewhere else. One of our members in the hive had done a super elaborate base. It looked awesome. It was beautiful. They built it up this mountainside. It was absolutely gorgeous. The problem is there were so many aspects of the base that were using that mountain to support itself that unless our new location had a mountainside or a hillside in just the right location set up precisely the way it needed to be to support the upper levels of our base, we're not going to be able to move our hive base. So our hive base is kind of stuck where it is right now until I can go back and try to reconfigure it some. So yes, be very, very careful about using the landscape to support your base, because in the future when you go to move it, you could run into some headaches. So that's tip number 2. The other thing I would suggest, talking about your basic foundation and stuff like that does interact with tip number 2. I have found that if you keep your base floor and the floors above it as regular, I guess is the word, as square as possible, it does make building higher up vertically a lot simpler, because it's going to be really easy to put down those foundations so you don't have to worry about hovering floors, hovering objects and stuff like that. And it's going to make it a lot easier to set up your base in a way where you can unplugged my headset for a moment there. Anyways, it's going to make your base a lot easier to set up so you can easily find everything, so you can have all your different locations in one place. And I'll give you a quick tour of my base right now to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So here's the ground floor. Basically, this is the entrance, well, one of the entrances to my base. This is where I got my garage, the bigger items that, can't really fit inside very easily. This is where I have my vending machine, my wish machine. I have these outside, of course, so that other players wandering by my base can interact with them, in case they need some water or something like that, or they're out adventuring and they ran out of bullets. Hey, I got you covered. The other thing too, of course, is the wish machine. If any players come by and they do not have a wish machine of their own, they can interact with mine so they can get blueprints. But yeah, as you can tell, the base is pretty square for the most part. My first level I have mostly set up for where I'm going to be keeping and storing my deviants. Mainly because there's tons of room, so if they need certain things like lights, if they need room to be away from certain things like crops, I had this set up for my biogel when I go to, get that happy, because this is the furthest area away from all my crops, which if you saw my deviant securement video, you would know the biogel does not like crops at all. So having this first floor set aside and focusing on just deviant securement and happiness makes it really easy to set up areas like this to keep some of our more pickier deviants happy. I also have my Stardust filter in here too, so that when I do go to use the cortexes for the purification process, it is protected during those waves of deviants that will come to try to attack it. You don't want to put it outside where the deviants can just rush at it and start whacking it. So I have mine inside. We will be talking about base security at the end of the video, because that's a little bit of a funky subject that personally I do not think is in a very good spot right now, so we'll save that towards the end of the video. So here's my first level right here. Second level I have for all my crafting stuff. So basically everything I need to craft everything in the game, whether it's supplies, healing items, weapons, gear, my cooking station. If you saw my cooking video, this is where my cooking station is. Foraging for ingots and stuff like that. My disassembly machine. And all my storage is basically on this second level. I also have my bedroom up here with some more storage for weapons and gear too. So yeah, when I'm coming back from, an exploration session, I have tons of stuff on me. I don't want to be running all over my base, to, do things like disassembly and stuff like that. Basically, this is how it works. When I first get to my base, I come upstairs, I disassemble all my items, all my scrap, and then I have 2 chests. And if you notice, too, you can stack storage chests, which is super, super helpful when it comes to saving, precious real estate in your base. So I do have my chest stacked, and you can also label your chest too, if you haven't realized too. When you access your chest, if you go up here and press either enter or press right here, you can relabel your chest. So just by, glancing at it, you can see exactly what that chest is and not have to, run around looking at a dozen different chests trying to figure out where you're putting all your mats. So I have one just for materials. where I keep all the things that I gather and all the things that can be made by players all in one spot, so I know where all my materials are. And then I have another chest right below it for all the scrap items. So these are items that you get while exploring, that you break down. So all the items that are broken down into scrap materials, as I like to call them, that's all kept here. So I have, just at a glance, I can see everything I have available. And more importantly, if there's something I'm running low on, I can tell. And now I know, hey, I need to do some exploration, find some towns. Let's see, what would be a good example? Let's see if we can find some with different materials. Okay, so here's a good example, right? Let's say I needed some, some of these fiber materials, right? And maybe some vegetables and fruits. Well, this location right here, Rippleby, has tons of materials right there. And you can always tell what materials, what scrap you can find in a location just by looking at the rewards. So this has tons of those fiber materials here. Whereas up by me, if I needed some of the other materials like the standard parts, well, I would hit this location instead because this location has a higher chance of giving me standard parts. So yeah, I have almost all my storage up here, and I also keep it close to the facilities that are going to use it. I have all my forges right here, so that when I do use them, like this guy right here has got some. There we go. I just got done making some charcoal. I can run straight over here and just put it in. I don't, oh, it's doing this again. Sometimes if you ever notice that it gives you that weird pop-up saying insufficient craft space, every once in a while, even though it will have room to put more of an item in there, it won't. So if you run into that, just take the item out and then put it right back in altogether. But yeah, I have it close to my forages. That way, when I'm done foraging, I can just walk right over here and put everything in. The same thing like over here. I have a chest for tools, and spare tools, and a chest for ammo right next to my supplies workbench and my synthesis bench. That way, if I pump out a whole bunch of ammo, and stuff like that, I can just turn right around and store it in here. And again, same thing with my cooking station. I have all my cooking facilities and storage right along this wall. I have, multiple meat dryers that we talked about in the cooking video. I have a food storage chest just for food items that don't have any durability, things like, peppercorn, sugar, and salt. And what I'm also using this for is, let's say I want food items to spoil. That way I can, start stacking up some of that spoiled food for my composter. Anything I want to spoil, I put in here. That way it can spoil. I have, of course, one of the fermentation barrels that you can use to make alcoholic beverages. I do have my fridge here for all the items I do not want to spoil. So this is everything, basically everything else in the game too. The other thing I do as well, here's a little tip. Once you get the fridge, when you're getting ready to either log off for the night or for the day or take a break, or let's say you're coming back to do a bunch of, resource management, to work on your base, and you're not going to be out and about for a little bit, put all your perishable items in here. That way, while you're doing those other things, all the food and stuff you've made aren't just, they're not just sitting in your inventory with their durability slowly wasting away. If you know you're going to be inside for a little bit, or like I said, you're getting ready to log for the day or night, or even for a couple hours to take a break, put any perishable food items in your fridge. So yeah, this is basically my second level. This is where I do all my crafting, resource management, and storage. And then up on the third level is where I have basically all my farming stuff. I do have all my planters set up. That way I have easy access to all the rows. I can get to everything. I don't have to worry about, other than this middle row right here. This is a little bit funky, but it's also not that bad because you can just run on top of them too. But this way too, I can do a bunch of crops and keep them kind of organized and separated. So when I do my farming session, basically what will happen, depending on weather conditions, because sunlight is a huge aspect of the farming system, like we talked about in my farming video. Let's say it's a cloudy day. I might only, be able to plant certain crops. So what I'll do is I'll grab all my seeds that need less light, and I'll just put them over in this section. That way I have them all over here. And then let's say the next day, it's full light. So what I'll do is, I'll grab all my other seeds that will plant very well in full light, and then I'll just put them over here. That way I have the two areas separated, and I can keep track of what is where. Because the other thing too with farming, and I'll actually show you a perfect example. Sage is one. Orange is one. Blueberry is another good example. So, depending on the type of plant it is, you will notice some of them. Here's a good example, the cornflower. Some of them need less light, and some of the watering is a lot more particular. So what I will do also in this right location, I try to make sure I never irrigate past 70. Because some of these plants, like the cornflower, the sage is also another one, the orange is another one, where you notice the irrigation levels are a lot more picky about how high they can go. So that's the other thing I try to do, is I try not to irrigate quite so much on this right-hand side. And on this left-hand side, this is the area where I do irrigate more. That way I can plant other items over here. So the other reason too, going back to the biogel, if you notice, this whole corner of my base, I have no crops. Because even though we're on the third level, if I were to put a crop right here, and if my biogel was actually in its unit right now, it would instantly get pissed off. The biogel absolutely hates crops being anywhere near it. So that's why I have this whole corner of my base completely free of crops. And on the flip side of that coin, that's why in this corner on the first floor, that's where I have my time ticker, because my time ticker actually requires crops to be in the ground. If you do not have any crops in the ground, your time ticker will be completely pissed off and unhappy. So that's why I have my time ticker on this side of my base underneath these crops right now. That way the time ticker is happy. This is also where I have my water filtration systems, where I have both a water purifier. I have one bucket just for purified water, mostly used for drinking and farming. And I have another bucket for dirty water. Now, the reason why I have the dirty water is because some items require boiled water to be crafted. And I want to make sure I have some dirty water on hand. That way, if I do need boiled water, I have access to it. And then, of course, I have my chest up here for water, for, watering my plants, for seeds, and I also store my fertilizer in here. And I have my composter, too, for fertilizer. Here's another quick tip, folks. Do not waste your spoiled food on your power generator. Don't do it. You will need it for fertilizer, okay? So if you're using spoiled food for your power generator, stop. Use wood. Wood is everywhere. Wood is super easy to gather. It doesn't take much to fully load up your power generator. Stop wasting your spoiled food. Save it so that when you do get the ability to create a compost bin, you can use that spoiled food to create fertilizer. But yeah, this is where I have all my farming stuff. Now let's talk about the water system and how I have mine set up, because I have learned a couple things since the time of my farming video about, and I've definitely made some changes too. So as you can tell right off the bat, all my pipes are coming from the next floor up, the top floor. The top floor is where I have all my rain catchers. All right? Basically how I have it set up, because there is a maximum limit of pipes you can connect to any one bucket or any one purification system. I believe it's like 8 or 9. Speaking of which, I need to drink some water. Hold on. So how I have my setup is I have the first group all running to my water purification system. Now, here's the trick about this. If you go to your building menu and you get into the building menu, you will notice, you see how the pipelines all are moving in particular directions? That shows you the flow. That's where the water is coming from. In this example, it's coming from my rain catchers, and where it's going. So it's going to the water purification system. Now, if you notice, there's also a pipe coming from the water purification system going to the water bucket. These pipe flows are super, super, super important, because in my farming video, before I made some of these changes, I originally thought that there was only one valve. Well, technically, and this is something I hope they change, because this is why I was so confused. I thought there was only one valve on the water purifier. And that's why my original system that I showcased in the farming video was different. Because technically there is only one valve on the purification system. You can run multiple lines in multiple flow directions, though, which I hope they change, because it does make it a little bit confusing. And here's a perfect example. If you look at my water bucket has an intake valve that's at the top, but down here, there is also an outlet. There's an outlet valve too. And that's why I was confused, because I'm like, wait a second, there's obviously two separate valves, and they are very noticeable with how bright red they are. I'm like, why is there only one valve on here? And that's why I thought there was only one way and one direction you could use the valve on the water purifier. A suggestion to any of the devs out there, please put a second outlet valve, maybe down here, kind of like on the water buckets. That way it's super obvious that you have multiple inlets and outlets. Because the current way it's set up right now, it can be a little bit confusing. I basically found it out by mistake when I was moving things around, and then I noticed, wait a second, I can connect an inlet valve to the outlet valve? I'm like, what is this? You know? So yeah, that's how I have my water system up, because again, I need two different types of water. I need boiled water for my drinking and for my farming, and I want to make sure I have dirty water for boiled water for recipes and stuff like that. And the easiest way to do it is you put your water catchment systems on top. That way it's super easy, because here's the thing. If you have your water catchment systems down here, they will not almost ever connect correctly to the top of the bucket. They will always try to connect to the bottom of the bucket, which is the outlet. But if you put them up top, it is super easy to connect to both the top of the outlet, the inlet bucket on the bucket, and to the inlet valve on the purifier. So that's how the water system is set up as well, with everything being on top. Now that that's out of the way, and we got, a lot of the basics covered, and, tips on how to set up things and stuff like that, let's talk about base security. Base security, unfortunately, in my opinion, is not in a great spot right now. And the reason why it's not in a great spot, I'll actually show you what I have, because I'm sure you've heard it go off once or twice during the video. I currently only have one turret set up in my base. That's not by choice. That's unfortunately because of the power limitation. Currently, where I am in the game. Now, here's a caveat to this. This might change. This might change. Especially now that I'm getting ready to move to the next area of the game. Now, down here, under, I believe it's facilities, if I remember correctly. Where is it? Here we go. If you notice down here, there's some more electrical equipment. And then right here, there is a large bioenergy generator, and below it, there is a large solar generator. Now, where we currently are, where I am in the game, and where probably a lot of you are as well, we only have the basic biomass generator and the basic small solar generator. These will only produce 20 power apiece. And if you notice, when you are in your base building menu, up here towards the top of the screen, there is a hard limit of how many power generators you can build in your base. You can only have 2 in your personal base. So if you're using those basic biomass generators and solar power generators, you are only able to, at most, have a maximum output of 40. It's 20 per generator. Here's another quick little tip when it comes to power. Daisy chain your generators together. If you notice, I have a wire connecting this one to this one. And then I basically use this one to connect the rest of the base together. If your generators are not connected, if they are not daisy chained, you will not be able to run most of your secure units with the higher level deviants. Things like the biogel takes like 35. Time ticker, I believe, takes 30. But yeah, if you do not have your generators daisy chained like mine are, you will not be able to run some of your securement units unless you run 2 separate lines to that unit, which just looks a little bit janky. This way, basically, you can have only 1 line connected to the rest of the base. And you can definitely keep things a lot tidier. That's about as far as I want to go into power generation because it can be a whole subject on its own. But yeah, the reason why I want to talk about it here is because with that 40 maximum output, your options for what all you can run in your base are kind of limited. The reason why I only have 1 turret is because the turrets require 4 watts of energy per turret. Like if we go over here to look at it, it shows you right here what every item in the game, if it does require power, what it requires. This requires 4 watts just to run 1. So with my current Deviant, which is the time ticker, and this is one of the reasons why I have the time ticker right now. My time ticker, let's see if it shows. I don't think it will show in here. But when you first go to put your Deviant in there, it will tell you, hey, how much power you need. The reason why I'm working on the time ticker right now is because it only requires 30 watts of power. That leaves me 10 watts of power left over for the rest of my base. And I squeezed every watt I could because the refrigerator requires 2 watts and the stove requires 2 watts. So that's 4. And then my water purification requires 2 watts, so that's 6. So that only left me enough leftover wattage to only build 1 turret. Now, unless you are doing the securement system, 1 turret is definitely enough for, any of the random things that might attack your base while you're in game. If you do want to interact with this, then you're going to have to make some hard choices. Because to anybody that has ever interacted with this purification system, basically how it works, just a very quick TLDR, during the purification process, you are going to be attacked by waves of enemies. And without either a group helping you or without a bunch of turrets to help you, you can get easily overwhelmed and fail the purification process. So if you want to do the purification process, you're going to have to make some sacrifices on some of your other base facilities, things like the stove and the fridge and water purification. Me personally, those are way more important right now to me. If you've seen my cooking guide, you've seen some of the higher level recipes you can create. And I need my electric stove. I need my water purification. And I need the fridge way more than I do that purification system right now for the Stardust and stuff. But I am hopeful, and I will update the video and let you all know as soon as I get here, because I do believe I have that almost unlocked. Yeah, almost. So when I go to fight the next boss and I clear the next boss, I will have these large biogenerator and solar generators unlocked. I am hopeful, I am keeping my fingers crossed, that the large generators have a higher maximum wattage output. And if that's the case, then it will open up more base building options. So you can, use things like the stove and the fridge and the water purification systems, and be able to build more security systems in your base. As soon as I find this out, I will update this video and let you all know. But as of right now, for myself and probably a large majority of you, all we have is the small solar generator and the regular biomass generator, which means we do have to work around that 40 watt maximum output limit. So yeah, that's how base security works. It's pretty straightforward. Like everything else in the game, you will unlock the items in your mimetic screen under fortification. You can build them, and kind of like how I showed you right here with my one turret, you can see how much power it requires. That way you can plan, okay, well, let's say you don't do any of the crafting stuff. You just run around and use whatever. From here, then of course you'll have more power to put more security items. But yeah, like I said, in the upper left-hand corner of the item you're trying to build or looking at, it will tell you how much power it requires. And that's kind of like the basic tips 101 of base building. For anybody else that does want to go down that security type of base, you do have quite a few options. Basically, under facilities and under fortification, this is where you're going to find all the security stuff. This is where you're going to find all the turrets and traps and different fortifications, kind of like fences and gates, sandbags, and stuff like that. You do have to be careful, though, because all of these items right here fall under facilities and furniture, which you can see you only have a limit of 100. So if you do want to go all in on base security, again, it's going to be a give and take. You're going to have to sacrifice other things in your base. Me, myself, again, at this point in the game, I am more worried about crafting and creating items to make the game easier to play than I am about base security. I don't do PvP. I don't ever plan on interacting with that. And like I said, outside of the purification system, my base hardly gets attacked. I believe your base will only be attacked while you're active and in-game. And I think it will only get attacked while you're actually at your base. I've never seen my base just randomly being damaged. And I've never seen an attack I've never like teleported to my base and it's in the middle of an attack. All the times I've ever been attacked at my base, at my base. So yeah, just having one turret is more than fine. Don't quote me on that. You might be able to get attacked while you're logged out. I personally don't see that being a good game design. And like I said, I've never experienced, but who knows? Who knows? Anyways, folks, that's our base building 101 guide. Just all the different, tips and tricks and strategies I have learned so far while playing the game. And, some things that I wanted to share with you all, to especially that new player experience, to make that new player experience a lot smoother and to help you all avoid some of the mistakes that I have made or have been made during my, base building adventures and stuff like that. I hope you all found the guide helpful. I know this has been one of my most requested guides. It's just, as you can see from the time that we're at right now, there's quite a bit to touch on, and that I wanted to touch you on to give you all the information you needed to get started with base building. I hope you find it helpful. And as always, I love and appreciate you all. My time in this game and the community that we're starting to build on my YouTube channel has been absolutely amazing. I appreciate all the wonderful comments and the discussions that we have on my YouTube channel. And I'm looking forward to making more content for you all. And I'm glad you're all enjoying it. So as always, thank you. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And this is your pal Trandell signing out.